travelers, this is the Baseball Time Machine. Our next journey takes us through the 1980s and 90s, a time of great technological progress, the end of the Cold War, Michael Jackson, and the career of a mustached man named Don Mattingly. Donnie Baseball was one of the best first basemen ever, but was unable to find his way into the Hall of Fame after many years on the ballot. Did voters make a mistake? There's no doubt that Mattingly made his mark on Major League Baseball and was a fan favorite throughout his career, but is he Cooperstown worthy? Let's step into the portal and find out. First, we must travel through the career itself. Don Mattingly was drafted by the New York Yankees in the 19th round of the 1979 MLB draft. Always known for his strong work ethic and constant motivation, he made an impact instantly. He had success on the minor league level, hitting well and even winning accolades for his defensive play. Mattingly was a September call-up late in the 1982 season and would be used as a role player throughout 1983. Don was a versatile fielder, providing outfield help for the Yanks as well as his normal first base spot. In 1983, Mattingly became the last left-handed fielder to play second base in a major league game. Although it was only for 1/3 of an inning, Mattingly played second base during the finish of George Brett's Pine Tar game. To this day, no lefties have played second since Donnie did it in '83. If there was anything he was known for at the time, it was how skillful he was as a defender. In 1984, however, his bat started to share the stage with his glove. After hitting well in camp, manager Yogi Berra named Don Mattingly the team's starting first baseman, a position he would excel at for the remainder of his career. He began his first full regular season off to a hot start and quickly drew comparisons to another youngster, crosstown rival Mets outfielder Darryl Strawberry. Yanks owner George Steinbrenner gave his thoughts on the comparison, instilling confidence in the 23-year-old Mattingly. George had plenty of evidence to support his claim, as Mattingly led Strawberry in nearly every offensive category at the time. Donnie was rewarded with his first All-Star selection as a reserve for the American League. In the second half of the season, Mattingly and teammate Dave Winfield would grab the attention of the baseball world. Both were having fantastic hitting seasons, with Winfield out-hitting Don most of the year, but by the end of August, they were neck and neck. Mattingly led Winfield 352 to 351. With 28 games left in the season, this race would become the forefront of Yankees news. Unfortunately, the team fell out of the divisional race, but Winfield and Mattingly's battle kept fans coming in droves. The two sluggers were on newspaper covers all over the city and received national attention. No Yankee had won the batting title since Mickey Mantle in 1956, so this was something many fans had never seen before. By the final weekend, Mattingly still clinged to a 1-point lead over Winfield. It appeared that Don would hold on to the lead since they were set to face 3 righties to finish the season, but he went only 1 for 7 in the first 2 games, surrendering the lead to Winfield. In the final game, Mattingly went 4 for 5 while Winfield finished the game 1 for 4. Don Mattingly was officially the American League batting champion. The fans saluted both stars for their efforts in what was a truly down-to-the-wire race. Besides the batting crown, Donnie led the AL in hits and all of baseball in doubles. He would receive MVP votes for the first time in his career, finishing 5th. In 1985, Mattingly only got better. With the Yankees acquiring superstar Rickey Henderson, Don now had another player to drive in. He led Major League Baseball in RBIs with 145, which was the most by a left-handed hitter since Ted Williams almost 40 years prior. Once again, he led the league in doubles and hit 35 homers, a career high. He was an All-Star for the second straight season and captured his first Gold Glove, Silver Slugger, and easily won the MVP award, receiving 23 of 28 votes to cement himself in baseball history. Unfortunately, the Yankees missed the playoffs by 2 games, keeping Mattingly out of the postseason once again. Donnie Baseball continued to receive high praise from some of baseball's greats. Lou Piniella called him the perfect blend of Wade Boggs and George Brett, 2 of the best pure hitters baseball has ever seen. Cardinals legend Stan Musial once said, quote, "He reminds me of myself," which, coming from Stan the Man, is a tremendous honor. Mattingly's next season was arguably even better than his MVP caliber in 1985. Don set career highs in average, hits, doubles, slugging, OPS+, and more. He finished second in AL MVP, only behind a 23-year-old Roger Clemens, who had an insane year on the mound. He remained the best defensive first baseman in the game, claiming another Gold Glove award. During the season, Yanks third baseman Mike Pagliarulo went down with an injury. Donnie showed off his versatility by filling in at the hot corner for 3 games. With that stint, he became the first lefty to play third base since Willie Keeler in the early 1900s. What Mattingly could do out in the field was certainly special. The Yankees were within 3 games of the division lead heading into the final stages of the regular season, but dropped 13 of their last 20 and finished 5.5 games back in the division. 1987 opened with a slump for Donnie. Once May came, he got hot and started putting together another Mattingly caliber season. Unfortunately, he suffered a back injury in June and would miss the next 21 games. 2 protruding discs were found on his back, which would nag him for the remainder of his career. When he returned from his time on the disabled list, he caught fire, hitting .370 in his first 2 weeks back. His good form continued with an 8-game home run streak, which tied a major league record. A few months later, he etched himself into the history books once again, hitting his 6th grand slam of the season, a new major league record. Despite another big year with more awards and broken records, the Yankees finished 4th in the AL East. Don would continue to play at an all-star level, but the Bronx Bombers finished 5th in both 1988 and 1989. As he continued to build a potentially Cooperstown-worthy resume, he would gain high praise from those who would find their way to the Hall in the near future. Manager of the Detroit Tigers at the time, Sparky Anderson, thought that Donnie was not only the best first baseman, but best overall player. George Brett, who some had compared Mattingly to in the past, questioned who the best would be if not Don. Many teammates also praised Mattingly, not just for his playing ability, but for how humble he always was and the way he preached a strong work ethic. That work ethic earned him a 5-year, $19.3 million contract extension with the Yankees, making him the highest paid player in baseball history at the time. Not only the Yankees, but the entire game of baseball seemed to have high regards for Donnie. Ironically, the following year, 1990, would be the worst of Mattingly's career. His previous back issues flared up again, causing him to lose almost all power in his bat. He only hit 5 home runs in his next 45 games, and went homerless for his next 200-plus at-bats. In July, Don admitted to manager Stump Merrill that he'd been experiencing back spasms and stiffness. After 231 straight starts, Mattingly was taken out of the lineup. He played sparingly throughout the rest of the season, going on and off the disabled list. He would finish 1990 with the worst numbers of his career. Along with his career lows, the Yankees would finish dead last in the American League for the first time since 1966. Mattingly, known for his determination, was ready to do whatever it took to return a better ballplayer. Were his best years behind him? Maybe offensively, but one thing that never faltered was his defense. If there was one thing that New York could count on Donnie for, it was his slick glove. The 1991 season began with outstanding merit for Don Mattingly. On March 1st, he was named captain of the New York Yankees. For a team with such rich history, captain is perhaps the greatest honor and privilege. To be in the same conversation as legends like Lou Gehrig, Thurman Munson, and Ron Guidry is a truly special thing. Mattingly felt the admiration and was now more motivated than ever. Don wanted to let his play do the talking, and bounced back from a disappointing 1990. He did wind up having a better season as his average bounced back up to a respectable .288, but his power never really returned. He tried experimenting with different stances, swings, and bat grips, but he was only able to muster 9 home runs in 152 games. The Yankees got out of the gutter, but still only won 71 games, nowhere near worthy of October baseball. Drama was building within the clubhouse. Team owner George Steinbrenner was serving a 3-year suspension and was forced to watch everything behind the scenes. The Yanks were on their 5th manager in 4 seasons, and hadn't won 90-plus games since 1986. Things got so heated at one point that Don requested a trade and felt that the team didn't need him anymore. Luckily, this tension subsided in the offseason, and both parties came back with much improved attitudes. 1992 was another quiet year for Mattingly and the Yankees. The team finished 4th in the AL East, missing the playoffs for the 11th straight year. As for Mattingly, his power came back a bit as he hit 14 bombs. He took home his 7th Gold Glove award in the last 8 seasons, though, continuing his reign as baseball's best defender. In the offseason, the Yankees made some big moves, ramping up for a potential postseason appearance in the near future. 1992 AL Cy Young runner-up Jimmy Key, perennial All-Star Wade Boggs, gritty outfielder Paul O'Neill, and the odds-defying Jim Abbott all helped make this team significantly better. Mattingly hadn't had this much help in years. The signings paid off as the team finished 2nd in the AL East for the first time since 1986. With a record of 88-74, they were still 7 games behind the Toronto Blue Jays, who would go on to win the World Series that year. Yes, it was another missed postseason for Mattingly, but it was significant progress towards success. As for Mattingly, he improved as well, as he had his best season since the 80s. He hit .291, slugged 17 homers, which were his most since 1989, and received MVP votes for the 6th time in his career. And of course, he won another Gold Glove. 1994 was the Yankees' year. They played their best baseball in almost 20 years and held first place in the AL East from the beginning of May onward. However, as the season continued, labor troubles ensued. The collective bargaining agreement between players and owners was set to expire on August 11th, and little progress was being made. In the present day, the players and league were lucky enough to have their lockout in the off-season, so no regular season games were sacrificed. Unfortunately, Mattingly and the 1994 Yankees weren't so lucky. Right after the CBA expired, the Players Association went on strike. Baseball was on hold. Many players didn't know if they'd ever get to play again, with no end in sight. By September 15th, no real progress had been made, and the season was effectively canceled. For the first time in 90 years, there would be no World Series. Many thought that the Yankees had the opportunity to make a deep run, as they were 70-43 at the time of the play stoppage. But now, no finish of the season, no World Series. Don Mattingly had been screwed out of potentially his best chance yet. Since he was so well liked, many around the baseball world, those who worked in it and supported it, showed sympathy for Mattingly, who might have just lost his last opportunity at postseason play. Thankfully, the Players Association and owners began talking late in the offseason and worked out a new agreement by the end of next March. The 1995 season would be 144 games, less than the usual 162, but that didn't matter. Baseball was back. The Yankees looked just as good in 95, if not better. The Yanks traded for 1993 AL Cy Young Award winner Jack McDowell, trusted Expos closer John Wetland, and called up a 23-year-old named Andy Pettit. The Bronx Bombers were primed and ready for contention. Mattingly, now 34 years old, was the veteran of the bunch, with plenty of young talent coming up around him. Injuries threw the team for a loop mid-season, but things came together by August. The team got hot and went on a crazy run, winning 25 of their last 31 games. Several players and staff credited Don with motivating them and giving them something to play for. Team manager Buck Showalter admitted to the team's rally behind Donnie. Jack McDowell knew that someone like Mattingly, with the illustrious career he'd had, deserved to play for a World Series. This propelled New York right into the wildcard spot, just beating out the California Angels. Don, nearly powerless, only hit 7 home runs but batted a respectable .288 in 128 games. With the Yankees securing the brand new wildcard spot, there had a place waiting for them in the postseason, and the also brand new division series. It might not have been perfect, but Don Mattingly, in the 14th year of his career, had finally made the playoffs. So for the first time in a while, the New York Yankees would play postseason baseball, this time in a matchup against the refused-to-lose Seattle Mariners. The new playoff round, the division series, was a best-of-5 that would decide who advances to the League Championship Series. The M's had plenty of talent, including Randy Johnson, Tino and Edgar Martinez, Jay Buhner, and a 25-year-old outfielder named Ken Griffey Jr. This would be no easy task for the Yanks. However, Don Mattingly's postseason debut was a success, as the Bronx Bombers won Game 1 of the series 9-6. Donnie had a good game, going 2 for 4 with a double and RBI to help give New York the victory. Game 2 wasn't as easy, but the Yankees were able to walk away with a 7-5 victory after a 15-inning battle with Seattle. In the bottom of the 6th, Ruben Sierra and Mattingly had back-to-back jacks to put the team up 3-2. The sellout crowd of 56,000 in the Bronx erupted with Donnie baseball chants as he rounded the bases. He would finish his night 3 for 6 at that homer and RBI, while the clutch Jim Leyritz would finish the game with a walk-off 2-run blast in the bottom of the 15th. Now up 2-0 in the series, Donnie and the boys would head across the country to Seattle for the final games of the set. Randy Johnson threw 7 strong innings of 2-run ball, along with a huge day at the plate for Tino Martinez. The Mariners defeated the Yankees 7-4. This was Mattingly's one bad game, as he went 0 for 4 with 3 Ks. The Yankees remained just 1 win away from advancing to the ALCS, and jumped out to a good start in Game 4, up 5-0 at one point. However, the pitching staff blew that lead and eventually went down 6-5. The Yankees tied up in the top of the 8th, but a 5-run bottom half for the Mariners propelled them to an 11-8 victory. John Wetland allowed 4 earned runs, receiving the loss. Mattingly had a huge bounce-back game as well, going 4 for 5 with 2 doubles and 2 runs batted in. Now, with the series tied, it all came down to this, the deciding Game 5. The two teams traded leads throughout the game. Mattingly, who only went 1 for 5, made the most out of his one hit, as it was a ground rule double to give New York a 4-2 lead in the 6th. Seattle answered back in the 8th, as Ken Griffey Jr. hit his 5th home run of the series, and David Cohn walked in the tying run just a few batters later. It appeared that extra innings were in order. In each half of the 9th inning, the teams turned to their aces. For the Mariners, it was the intimidating Randy Johnson, who had pitched well against them 2 games prior. For the Yankees, it was Jack McDowell, who historically struggled in the postseason, and took the loss back in Game 3. Both the 9th and 10th were scoreless as they pushed the 11th inning. Both pitchers, on only a day's rest, started to show signs of fatigue. In the top half, Mike Stanley started things off by drawing a walk. It was the first base runner the big unit had allowed in the game. Tony Fernandez followed with a high IQ play, laying down a sacrifice bunt to move Stanley to second. The very next batter, Randy Velarde, would lace a single through the hole into left field, scoring Stanley from second. The Yankees now held a 5-4 lead. Johnson would get the next 2 outs without any trouble, and would head into the bottom of the 11th, now down by 1 run. Johnson was at least able to record an out in the 11th. The same cannot be said for Jack McDowell. The M's tagged Jack right away as Joey Cora got on with a bunt single, and Ken Griffey Jr. followed with a single to right field. Next came Edgar Martinez, who had a fantastic year. MLB's doubles leader ripped a bullet down the left field line. As Gerald Williams played the ball in the left field corner, Cora scored with ease. Griffey would try to score from first and win his team the series. The relay was strong, but the kid flew around third and slid into home, just beating the throw. The Mariners had stormed back from 2-0 down in the series to win it 3-2 and advance to the ALCS. It was unknown at the time, but that would be the last game of Mattingly's outstanding career, and it ended in bitter fashion. Donnie hit .417 in the series and made the most of his short stint in the postseason. Mattingly sat out in 1996, seeing if his health could improve from some time away from the game. Ironically, 1996 was the Bombers' year, as they won the World Series over the Atlanta Braves. The following January, Mattingly officially announced his retirement at a press conference at Yankee Stadium. 7 months later, the Yankees held Don Mattingly Day, a day in which his number 23 was retired and was dedicated a plaque in Monument Park. The plaque praised his work ethic and attitude, like so many did throughout his years in pinstripes. Years later, Mattingly's coaching career began with the Yankees as hitting coach. He's since moved up to a managerial level as he took over as skipper of the Dodgers in 2011. Currently, he's at the helm of the Miami Marlins, trying to lead them through a rebuild and towards success. For the sake of this trip, we're going to continue to focus on his playing career and whether what he did was enough for Cooperstown. Now that we've made it through, let's dig deeper. Now, does a player really need World Series rings to be a Hall of Famer? No, of course not, but it really helps. In our last journey, we traveled through the storied career of Sandy Koufax. Koufax had to retire at 31, and although he had some of the strongest pitching seasons ever, retired many years before some of Cooperstown's greatest pitchers. What might have helped Koufax, other than being dominant in his final years and being almost universally loved, was winning 3 World Series championships in his 12-year career. The Hall does hold places for those without rings. Guys like Ken Griffey Jr., Ernie Banks, and Ryne Sandberg never got the opportunity to earn baseball's highest reward. The difference between these guys and Mattingly, however, is longevity. Looking at their statistics side by side, it's a lot closer than you'd think it would be. If not for Don's back troubles acting up in 1990 and the lockout shortening the 94 and 95 seasons, Mattingly's stats would be even better than those shown. Taking a look at just first basemen in the Baseball Hall of Fame, there's some great company. There are 19 Major League Baseball players in the Hall that play at least 60% of their games at first base. 14 of the 19 played more career games than Don Mattingly. As for games played, the closest is longtime New York Giant Bill Terry. Terry played in the 1920s and 30s and was inducted in the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1954. However, looking at their stats side by side, they're not too far off. Despite different eras, both have a batting title and great career averages. Terry got the one thing that eluded Mattingly, a World Series win, but Mattingly has an MVP, which Terry never finished higher than third in his career. As for the other first basemen, here's a look at their stats compared to Mattingly's. You'll notice a common theme here, and that's that none of them touched Mattingly defensively. Sure, most of them outperformed Don on offense, but based on these numbers, Don might be the greatest defensive first baseman of all time. If ever inducted, Mattingly would have the highest position fielding percentage of anyone in Cooperstown. Taking a look at the all-fielding percentage team for members of the Hall, Don fits right in. Gold Glove awards mean less and less every year now, but Mattingly is second among first basemen with 9 Gold Gloves, only trailing Keith Hernandez's 11. Don Mattingly had plenty of chances on the traditional ballot. The BBWAA had 15 years to vote him in, but he never reached higher than 28.2 in his first year, nearly 47% less than what's needed to enter the Hall. For Mattingly to get through at this point, he would have to go through the era committees. Formerly the Veterans Committee, the era committees give different eras of baseball another chance to get into the Hall of Fame. Mattingly falls between the Today's Game and Modern Baseball committees, and will most likely be considered for the Hall under Modern Baseball, as it includes his MVP caliber seasons. The Historical Overview Committee puts together 10 to 12 representatives from each era that the members of each committee votes on. Most Hall of Fame first basemen have been inducted via one of the committees rather than a traditional induction. Just this past election, Gil Hodges found his way to Cooperstown through the Golden Days Era Committee. We've neared the end of our journey. It's time for the verdict. Don Mattingly once said, "When you think of me on the baseball field." Well, when I think of Donnie Baseball, I think of Cooperstown. After a great deal of research and analysis of his career and statistics, the Baseball Time Machine believes that Don Mattingly should be in the Hall of Fame. He played the game of baseball with class and dedication. His work ethic was among the best ever. He fought through injuries to be their first ball club, and although he never got a shot at that coveted World Series trophy, Don is a winner. He won with the players, fans, and the game of baseball. At his peak, he was perhaps the best player in the game, and in the present day, he remains one of the best defenders the great game has ever seen. Don Mattingly, you are Cooperstown worthy. This has been the Baseball Time Machine. Thanks for traveling with us.